You're now listening to the show about the shit in life that's just a bit too much from the perspective of stand-up comics. With our hosts, Carmelo Bongiovi and Ken Krantz. This week's topic, the good host. With our guest, Chris Johnston. This is A Bit Too Much.
You switch gears for a second. This is also talking about like sort of big events, fandom, and stuff like that. You open for Impractical Jokers.
Yeah.
So you're opening and warming up the crowd for like their stage shows, right? Like their cruises and shit like that.
Yeah, I've been on the 4 out of the 5 cruises. The first one I couldn't make. I've opened for them at some really cool spots. I did Radio City. I did the Greek Theater in LA. I did Prudential Center in Newark, which is like my home arena.
Yeah,
I've done arenas, amphitheaters, theaters all over the country. I still have a soft spot for those are great novelties to do some of these arenas and stuff, but it's not really great for comedy. Yeah, it's different.
Right,
there's a lot of
really
movement.
not
The 1,000 to 5,000 cap theaters with the old timey theaters, like the turn of the century 1900s, before they even needed a PA, and they would do shows when like the upstage was really arced, and the plaster would reverberate and had great acoustics. Those are fucking amazing with the balconies that are close up. There's a place Majestic Theater in San Antonio, Majestic Theater, San Antonio. We did the Vic Theater in Chicago. Those are tremendous. You feel like you're getting pounded with laughter from like every angle. So those are some of my favorics, but the other novelty,
because they're built for a lot of them are built also for like plays and projecting. So they were meant to acoustics
are great.
Be complementary to the performance, right?
The amphitheaters are tough outdoors because you feel like the laughs just go up. It's like an arena without any reverb of laughter. So you don't. You're like, did I do it? I think I did it.
Bombing outdoors is tough too.
Bombing outdoors,
like during COVID, because it's like when you suck the air out of an open field.
Are we talking about the Trump assassination attempt? No.
And it's also weird when there's daylight during a comedy show.
Daylight during
if it's like early evening and the show has started. Comedy is supposed to be in a dark, dingy room.
It is,
and the theaters.
Well, you see that too. I'm sure. Like, if you're anybody that doesn't know, like, to set up comedy, like, people want their anonymity. They want to be able to laugh. That's one of the first things. One of the first places I ever did, New York Comedy Club in like 1999.
Yeah.
After doing like Stress Factor, it was my first ever time on stage. I got there and people. I didn't realize people were coming up to me after like, oh, dude, I thought I bombed. And people were like, dude, you were great. I was sitting there with my father-in-law. I had to cover my mouth. I couldn't laugh at certain stuff. And you realize people want their anonymity. They want to be able to laugh at shit without being judged. So, I mean, again, now full circle, opening for those guys, that's one of the things I learned to really get the crowd on your side, to get them in, get them revved up. A lot of their fans weren't really comedy club goers. They were TV watchers that they blew up. So they didn't understand the dynamic of it. So I would have to lay out the rules like, we're here to have a good time. Yeah. Keep that energy high, laugh loud. The more fun you have, the more fun we're going to have. So we're going to lean on you guys to help dictate how the show goes.
So you're a good host.
There's a lot of shit that goes on outside right now, and there's a lot of shit going on in your lives. But for tonight only, can we be here together, sit back, let loose, have some fucking fun?
Dude, I'm fucking amped up.
And that's what kind of gets him in, and it kind of like gets him hyped.
I feel like he's about to introduce the E Street Band.
I just got the fucking chills, dude.
Yeah,
that was fucking phenomenal.
It's time. I'm gonna get sued. That's 3 people I offended.
Ken and I both talked about how much we hate hosting.
Yeah,
and because I think I'm naturally I'm just so not that person naturally to like amp up. Guy, it's like I don't want to get in, do my jokes, get out, and that's gotta be hard, especially for. Or a challenge. Maybe you don't find it particularly hard, but like a challenge or a like, I feel like you need to like psych yourself up before the show to get there.
And it's not about you. You have to realize that you're going to go out there, you're going to get them reeled in on your side immediately, and then get it set up for the. And I've seen other comics, like we'll have guest comics, or I've seen other comics go out that are seasoned comics, big names that don't know how to work those rooms, don't know how to work crowds that aren't their crowd, and kind of fall flat a little. People that I admire that are tremendous kind of fall flat a little bit, and they're like, it's
not a comedy
their
club
ego
crowd.
hurting, and it's like, yeah, it's not your crowd. It's not a comedy club crowd. It's a big arena. The acoustics are different. The timing is different. The waves of laughter come in different.
Yeah.
So you have to pace yourself and set yourself up differently. Crowd work
Yeah.
is different. That's one of the things
you're not right. You're not
these
near
guys.
a comedy club where they're fucking at your feet.
So we have giant video
Yeah.
walls on the side that show you, IMAG, you, and then there's camera operators. And if I see something that I'm like, this is elephant on the wall, I got to talk about this. This is something that is a great crowd work. But if I notice that the camera operator's not picking him up and he's not on the screen behind me,
It's
I
useless.
can't go into
Yeah.
it because 10,000 people behind that person in the front row are not going to get the joke.
80
And
people in your comedy club will see that person.
100%.
The theater's
You
not
could
gonna
ask
see
them to stand up in a
Yeah,
comedy
yeah,
club,
yeah.
whereas even in the arena, they
no
won't.
one's going to see it.
So things
There's
like
a lot
that.
of factors. There's a lot of factors that are much different than what we're used to
Yeah.
in a comedy club.
What you learn trial and error. Comedy is one of the most psychological things there are, and that's how you learn this
Right.
stuff.
And you do have to, that thing where you're like telling a joke and you're thinking 3 steps ahead of what you're going to do as you're telling. Like you're
100%,
talking
yeah.
and thinking at the same time.
Yeah.
Which I think people don't understand that, like, that has to be done. Like, you're looking at something, you're thinking of then what your next bit's going to be, and you're still telling the joke at the same time. You've got like 3.
And you've also got backup
tracks.
plans ready to pivot if this isn't
If
hitting.
this doesn't go well,
Especially if you're doing something edgy, Louis.
or if I am,
Oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. Backup plans.
There's no backup plan.
Oh, I'm supposed to pivot if it's not
hold on.
going
You
well.
don't have a front-facing plan. You don't have a plan.
Yeah.
Okay. I went to I think it was when we were you put me on as a guest spot at Dojo once,
Yeah.
and you were going on in like seconds, and you were like, all right, let me go figure out what I'm going to say. I was like, what do you figure it out?
No, I'm strict. I write a set
But
list. I
do
look at my
kinda love
notes.
that too, like the go with the flow part of that, because that keeps you loose too. And I'm a little too anxiety ridden sometimes, and I don't do that enough.
It keeps you spontaneous. Like there's bits that I've done that I know are going to crush, but I almost don't give a fuck about them anymore, and I want to speed through
You're
them.
sick of them.
To get and
sick of
tricks that I've done to get rid of that are just like change up your set list a little to make yourself feel a little less autopilot, a little uneasy. Throw something different.
Right.
This way you have to kind of pay attention. Like you were saying, you are just talking through it, working while you're working on plan B or your next couple moves like a chess game. But if you switch it up a little, you're like, oh shit, I got to be on my toes a little more, which makes you slow down, which makes you feel like you
have to be present.
a little more.
You can't go on autopilot. Yeah,
If you present yourself with a couple challenges, like I'll do, like you said, like just going out of order, switching up the list. I will.
He won't show up.
If a set's
That's a challenge you'll have.
if a set's going well, I'll
talk to them as they're walking out of the room.
I'll jump
do love
in.
watching
I'll
Ken
jump
walk a
into an
table.
old bit that I haven't done in 10 years.
Yeah,
and I'll
100%.
just be like, I don't even know if I remember how this bit goes.
Yeah.
but I'm launching into it next joke, and we're gonna see what happens. And it keeps you, like you said, it keeps you present and it keeps you in the moment.
Yeah.
You're not on autopilot, just
Yeah,
repeating words that work.
Because I'll listen
you
to
feel
my
like you're
tapes.
dying inside when you feel like you're on autopilot. And you're like, I'm not even. There's another body. There's like another person. You're like looking at yourself tell the joke. You have this.
You
like,
are. You're like one of
out-of-body
those
experience.
fucking ghosts that come out in like the movie Ghost.
Yeah.
Lewis Black had a great line where he's like, "Do 2 for them, 1 for you," which I always looked at. And I was like, "That's a great line," because it helps to keep you. You got a new bit, something that you're looking forward to doing, whether it does well or not. They got 2 that worked for them. They got 2 rewards, and then I get my doggy treat, and then I'll give them 2 more, and then I'll take 1.
Yeah.
And it keeps
the more
both of you in
clever
the
stuff
game.
that make you proud of your joke writing and your ability to do it, even if they don't fully get it. Because sometimes audiences won't get the things that are almost too clever.
No, and it's also setting things up in waves that you learn too. Like new comics. And I know this is taking a turn for what we were initially talking about, but where you set up your material, obviously you want it to ride waves. I usually, there's times where I'm like so excited about a new bit and I know it's going to do well, and I told it to a bunch of friends, and I get up there and I lead off with it, and I'm like, that was not the right spot.
Not the right
That was
depending on the subject matter,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're, you don't want to open with your new abortion bit.
well, it depends on where.
Depends on what room you're into.
Yeah.
But when you're working with like the Jokers, I feel like when you're open for someone, now granted there's a whole, like you just went through some like outside factors there that are like about the venue and stuff like that, but like there's also an element of, even in smaller settings, when you are with, so the headliner is a name and their fans are there for them. Sometimes especially when you're hosted, because when you host, you're going out cold.
Yeah.
They haven't heard a voice on the mic yet.
Yeah.
Or they might have just heard the announcement of you.
Yeah.
Right. And now you're going out cold, and the audience, especially if they're not comedy fans.
Yeah.
People that are doing shows that are famous from TV shows, famous from now these days like TikTok. Their audience is there to see them because they like them, they like their skits, they like their show, they like their thing, and they're not necessarily, not saying the whole audience, but maybe half of them are not. They've not been to comedy clubs.
No.
I just had this experience this past weekend in Poughkeepsie. It was they were there to see the headliner. They looked upset when I walked on stage.
Yeah.
They heard a name that wasn't a headliner, and they were like, I saw literally people going like that. I'm walking out.
Yeah. In Carmelo's defense, it usually comes when he's walking off. he's not used to the disappointment right up front.
They front loaded the disappointment. Nice.
Yeah.
He usually saves it for the back end.
Usually save it for the back end.
Hey guys, you look disappointed. This is my closer. Come on. What are you gonna do when I walk off?
Why, you guys get to your closers? They allow you to do
get
your
to
closers?
it?
So I could see it, and that's that's laughing up in Poughkeepsie, right? That's a like 200 person room when they're fully, so that's not a theater with all these other factors. Do you experience that? Like if you're being announced on stage, they're like, but this isn't, you're not the joke, like
with the joke. So yeah, I mean, but I've been doing it long enough. I've toured with like Artie Lang and Howard Stern, Killers of Comedy, and all those guys. I toured with Jim Jeffries for a little bit. And I toured, I did a bunch of shows with a bunch of other bigger comics. So I was used to doing theaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But for their crowd, the Jokers crowd, it was a little different at first because again, they weren't comedy club goers. They were TV show watchers. A lot of them. A lot of the times they're bleeped out on TV, so people thought it was safe, even though it said 16 plus recommended age. You would see 6-year-olds in the crowd, 8-year-olds, and you're like, oh, I guess I shouldn't do this dildo bit that I'm going to do, but I kind of want to do it because I know it's going to work. So you got to figure out a strategic way to go into it.
That's on the parent at that point.
That's what I would go into. I'd be like, I guess you didn't listen to the 16 plus recommended age, and then you kind of don't want to offend them, don't want to hurt their feelings, realize that it's not the same demographic of shows. So yeah, it was a trial and error of pulling back on some material, going forward with different material, writing new material. But you do see that they don't really, and then that was the number one question a lot of people would ask too with the Jokers is like, what are they going to do? What's their show? Like, are they going to just mess with people outside? Are they bringing people on stage?
Right,
is it a comedy show? Because it was such an anomaly.
They're not there. They've never seen them do stand up.
Yeah,
or whatever they're doing. Yeah. That's different.
I would tell people it's like a combination of like a stand up comedy mixed with 4 people jumping in on each other's punchlines, writing it in for each other, and video and photos that they'll refer to. For the opener, sometimes they would use a couple of us at a time. We would go out and just do straight stand-up comedy. And it was, again, you would see some seasoned vets that weren't used to the kids in the crowd and stuff like that kind of didn't deviate from the material and were like, oh, man, what happened? And they're like, that ain't going to work.
Yeah,
you got to kind of switch it up, try something different.
Yeah.
Not necessarily families,
There's families there.
Yeah, there are families there. And especially if you could see them, they could see you. Everybody's looking around. And you could feel the room tighten up because everybody feels awkward for this family that's there. Towards the end of it, like the last couple years, the last couple tours, it started the families would die down a little more. I guess people got wind to it or have come out to shows and realized what the show
after
actually
they've done enough shows, and some of them have probably been aired.
For the first couple
you could
years,
probably go on YouTube and look to see what
the reviews,
what they're doing.
You could see reviews, see what stuff was, but it was a different dynamic. But again,
well, outside of those shows too, some of those guys are like Sal's, doing so much stand up, right? Like
his shows at first too were like people would bring their kids and they realized the 16 plus recommended age, and they didn't.
Oh, to like his solo stand up,
which
really?
is not, a lot of them are not kid friendly, which they're so used to it. The curses being bleeped and the words being bleeped, like the content is risque on TV, but
but there's nothing that's gonna heart.
But they have some of the greatest fans in the world. They've adapted, they've come out. We've done cruises. We do like individual shows. So many of the Jokers fans have transformed
dedicated cruises to like Joker cruises, right?
Dedicated crew, and oh my god, the lineups that they curated. Again, this is where. A lot of their fans, their diehards, I don't know that they were comedy club goers because they're great fans and appreciative and look forward to great comedians, but they didn't know some of the names. Like some of the names on these cruises were like, Tim Dillon and Nate Bargatze and Theo Vons and Tony Hinchcliffe's and Jim Brewers, and they weren't privy to those. It's the only time in my life it was funny. Me and one of the other guys that opened for the Jokers got on the boat, and some fans ran up to us like, "Oh, we saw you open here. We saw you open here. Can we get a picture with you guys?" And we were like, "Yeah." And Bobby Kelly was standing by, who's he's a legend as a comedian. And they were like, "Here, sir, can you take this picture of us?" And Bobby Kelly was like, "Who the fuck are these guys?" And we're like, "This is the only time that we'll ever get clout over you in a comedy setting. So please, just take the picture. I'm sure that once they see you, you'll get clout over us. But this is our moment."
It is cool to watch for you though. Like I see, like on your stories. Yeah. It's always fans taking pictures with you, and I'm rooting for this dude.
Yeah, you're connected.
Let me tell you something about Chris. So like when you, it's inside baseball for comedy, but when someone asks you about a comic and you're like, they're the nicest dude ever, that is usually code for they fucking suck at stand up.
Yeah,
but I like them.
If you got runners in scoring position, let's pinch hit that guy.
Yeah. Well, you'd be glad to know I will never say that you're the nicest dude
I don't
ever.
think anybody's saying that.
Not only are you a good comic, but also you're a dick. You're a full-on asshole.
I think that's what makes you a good. Like I think that helps make you a good comic. But Chris is like legit one of the nicest dudes I've ever met, but also a fucking killer.
Yeah.
And it's like cool. It's cool to see you
cry. I appreciate
We're
that.
We're trying to make our guests cry. We think that we get more hits.
It would make it a little hotter in here. That'll help. No, I appreciate that. I that means a lot. I just, being around these guys and their fans are tremendous, and little things like that, like when they take a picture with you, and you repost it and stuff like that. I know it could mean a lot to somebody. I'm a nobody, but they come out and they see you, they invest their time in you, and then they invest their time enough to take a picture and post it. I'm like, of course I'm going to repost that. That means a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm rooting for me too, but I'm not, I'm not rooting to the level, like I appreciate it, but I haven't been around so many guys and their celebrity and seeing how intrusive it is on their lives sometimes.
Yeah.
I almost am like, hey, I'm great in the spot that I'm at, man. I'm cool just going along, doing my own shows, doing these shows, but being around my family, because there was a couple times where like I wasn't ready for it, like the being recognized. Like we went to an event and I brought my kids and my family with me, and it was an event that, at a theater I had performed in the past, opening for I think them, and fans came up to me and they're like, "Hey man, how are you? Can we take a picture?" And my kids are like, and then they were like, "Hey, is this your kid?" And they mentioned my kids by name because they follow me on social media, and I'm like, all right, this is weird.
That feels weird.
And my kids are like, "Why do they know us, Dad?" And I'm like,
"Why do they know what school we go to?"
Yeah, right. Why does he say something about me striking out 3 times?
Why is he outside of our house? I never thought of that. Like,
I never did until it happened, and I'm like, oh man,
I'd get real cagey, I think, in that moment. My daughter, man, like I might.
I mean, it wasn't one
because even if they're not being weird, I'm just so overprotective about my kid that I think that would really that would be very off-putting to me.
I always thought it was weird to see celebrities put like fucking smiley face emojis over their kids' pictures and stuff. And you're like, look, come on, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
But now
like we care about your kid, but there's people that do.
No, dude, the internet's a scary fucking place, man. Like I've talked about this with my wife, as my daughter loves to cook, like as do I, and she's like, we should give her a little like YouTube channel, like let her do like these cute cooking videos. I'm like, nope.
Well, you see,
not happening. And my wife's intention is like, because she's so cute, and she says really funny things. Like, yeah, but guess what? There are like 800 million child molesters on TikTok.
Sure,
like. There is something really creepy.
20 on your block. No.
Yeah.
No, but it's one of those things. Like again, I mean, you look at like child stars that grow, like a lot of them are pretty fucking weird. You're almost like everybody wants that level until they get it, and then they're like, oh, what did I wish for? So I don't know. I mean,
have you ever seen Corey Haim?
Who?
Corey Haim just walking around.
Oh yeah, right?
Yeah. Like there's not a lot of Emmanuel Lewis's. There's more Gary Coleman's, right? Like
Corey Feldman. All those fucking dudes.
Oh, Corey Feldman is. I'm thinking.
I was like, Corey Haim is dead. I've not seen him walking around.
Have you ever seen Corey Haim
walking around? You did because he's dead.
Trick question. He's dead.
Corey Feldman is what I'm thinking. Sorry.
Get your Lost Boys shit together. You're eating worms, Michael.
Dude, I saw Corey Feldman because he's a musician now, and I saw him in Anaheim. and he was just walking. He had like his security with him, and he was just walking down. He looked real like he had performance outfit on. He was going to or coming from performance, and just eating chicken wings as he was walking. Like he had a styrofoam container of like it looked like one of those like Kennedy's chicken, like one of those like real shitty takeout, and he was just eating chicken wings and throwing the bones. I'm like, this guy's a full on fucking. He's become a raccoon. Yeah. He's a full on animal.
We went to Limp Bizkit. He was opening for Limp Bizkit.
That's right.
Oh wait, didn't you? You had a great Fred Durst story you told me, but I don't remember.
Yeah. I was a big Limp Bizkit fan growing up, and I used to have the red backwards hat, and I had my I used to get girls looking like Fred Durst, and I'm like, this is great. I'll keep this going. I'll be a decoy Fred. But I went to the show, and I think it might have been like Limp Bizkit with Eminem and like Method Man and Redman and Exhibit opening at Continental Airlines Arena 2 nights in a row, and I went and I wanted to hear the song Pollution off the first album. They didn't play it the first night. So I used to write graffiti my whole life too. So I drew this like graffiti sign and I held out. It was like an accordion, like bzzz, I pulled it out. I was on the front barricade, got all the way in the pit, and it said Pollution. And Fred Durst saw it and he was like, that's fucking awesome. Our fans rock. Let's get this guy up on stage. And then the security guy, gigantic guy, pulled me up. Next thing I was on stage at Continental Arena, which is the Meadowlands, East Rutherford.
How long was this? This is like in the height of their.
This is the height of this is DJ. They had a giant robot as a setup. Like it was the height of Limp Bizkit.
They're not playing Continental now.
No, they're doing.
They might be
they're making a bit of a resurgence
at a Continental. Yeah.
So I'm standing there looking and I'm holding out the sign. He's like, show that to the crowd. That's fucking awesome. This guy gets lifetime Limp Bizkit passes. He's one. This is what our fans are all about. And then I'm giving high fives to West Borland. I'm high fiving DJ Lethal. Somebody puts a pass on me. I go side stage. Next thing I know, he's talking. I'm still high fiving people. There's people side stage. I got my pass on. I'm like, this is fucking amazing. And then some girl comes backstage and like is backstage with me and she's got a pass. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Little do I know, my brother told me later on after he got me on stage, Fred Durst goes, we're going to get this guy laid tonight. Who wants to be his girl? And they're like, it's some girl. She was hot too. They brought her on stage. She comes over. She's standing by me. I didn't hear any of that because I was caught up in the moment. Yeah. So she stands next to me and I'm just like, hey, you got on stage. Cool. Too awesome. And I gave her like a high five and then wandered off. And I'm like, man.
By the way, you killed your shot when you high fived her. That was definitely she was like, all right, I'll do this for Fred Durst. And she's like, did he just high five?
So then we go
automatically. No one's ever got fucked after giving a chick a high five.
That's after.
Yeah, so, you don't even high five. You high five your buddy.
So then after the show, I go backstage. I have my pass, and I'm like, oh, I got my pass. The guy, he said, he was like, nah, it's just chicks only. And I'm like, oh, but he said I'm the guy he brought on stage that I get lifetime Limp Bizkit passes for, and the security guy was like, that's just shit for the stage. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. And I was like, oh, all right. And then I went outside, and then my brother was hanging out with my girlfriend at the time, who heard that they brought this girl backstage, and she's all pissed off. And then I'm like, what are you mad about? I got on stage, so what? And then she's like, who's the girl? What happened with that? And I'm like, I don't know. And then my brother told me, oh, he brought her backstage so you get laid. And I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know that. I just didn't get laid there. Awesome. And I got this angry chick mad at me here.
And that, kids, is how I met your mother.
And that's how I met your mother.
Yeah.
Pollution.
The fandom is wild. I guess with musicians, though, it's like more so than like comedians. Like, I mean, there's huge comedians have wild fans, but like musician fans. I mean, people, because I guess there's just something so like, sort of emotional and almost like visceral about like being, passionate about a musician, and then you see.
That said, I think comedy's bigger now than it's ever been. Comedy has 100%. Made a huge resurgence, and comedians are rock stars for the first time. But I think the difference is that the dynamic of it. You could be a musician in the room while they're playing. Like I always say, the difference between comedy and music is if you're in there and the band's got to hit, the lyrics to the band song and you're singing along, that's a great song. If the crowd knows the lyrics to any of my jokes, I need to write new shit immediately.
Yeah.
So you could feel like you're there with the band, you're singing in it, they're holding the mic to you. If I hold the mic to the crowd and they can rehearse my joke, I'm a fucking hack, dude.
Did you ever see? You ever do 2 shows in a night and someone stays for the late show and they're mad at you for not having new shows?
So this is the thing with a lot of Jokers fans.
A
lot of the Jokers fans come out over and over and over, and I feel bad a lot of times.
Oh, do they expect?
And you see them sitting there in the front rows, and you feel bad because they're such good fans, and they keep coming out that you're like, oh shit, and it throws me off when I see them there in the front row, and I'm almost like I again, having a backup plan, I'll pivot and deviate from where I remember. I
If
feel
you
like I saw
recognize
them
the
last,
actual
or a new
yeah.
joke. Yeah. They've become such, a lot of their fans have become friends and fans and like, of mine. So I try to always reward them with a new bit or something different or some crowd work. And it's funny because I'll do this same psychological shit when I'm in a comedy club, like 5 shows over a weekend, and I see the same bartenders and I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry. I know you heard the same jokes all weekend. I threw in a new bit, but they're so on autopilot of work and they're like, I didn't listen to one thing you said.
Yeah,
I was just counting tips and I'm like, fuck.
When you see a bartender or a waitress look up and laugh at something you just said, you're like, oh, I know that was
got
funny.
that.
Yeah. Like
It's like making other comedians laugh because they're so jaded and they're so busy that like when you make a comic laugh, you're like, oh, I know that was actually
if
good.
somebody walks out on a bartender's tab or something like that, or a service tab, you're like, that's right. I had you lured in. You weren't even keeping eyes
you
on
weren't
it.
even paying attention. Yeah. Yes, I think you're right about the like right now in this moment, comedy is like almost rock star shit. Like I mean, for
it is. It's wild.
Like Shane Gillis fucking in these arenas. I mean, it is rock star shit. But there is, it's like, but on the smaller scale of it, comedy club versus let's say small music venue.
Yeah,
there is still something. So if you don't know the band. You just like the venue or whatever. There is still something so you can get caught up in music in a way that is like it sort of elevates your senses. It's a little bit like a drug.
Well, it's free flowing.
I mean, laughter is too, but
I tell people all the time, especially new people putting comedy shows or showcase shows together. I'm like, listen, especially now, people's attention spans are shorter than ever. And people's attention spans, even when comedy was without the distractions of phones and TikToks and everything else, the attention spans can only withhold so much. Comedy is a lot of work on a crowd. Yeah. They have to sit there, pay attention, listen for the setups, know when the punches are coming.
You got 10 comics on a bill, and every single one of them. How is everyone doing tonight? That whole start up again.
You're going to be burnt.
Come down, start up and come down. That's why comedy shows are typically for comics. You host, opener, feature, headliner. That's all they've got.
Yeah.
Hour and a half.
Yeah. Well,
that's why a show should be run that way.
You'll see comics not paying attention to what the comics before them say.
Sure. So
and then they go to the lady with the funny hat for like the 5th time during the show.
Like, the crowd's done with it.
Yeah. Or you'll see when people come in to do drop-in spots, big name comics on like, showcase shows that are 10 comics, 15 comics deep. They'll pick that sweet middle spot of the night, the prime spot. They're not trying to wait till the very end to be the quote unquote headliner. Fuck that. That's the crowd is way burnt by that point,
Right. And then everyone after that person, oof, done.
Yeah. I've had that spot.
Night's over.
You've had it too, where Jerry Seinfeld probably comes in and off him, and you're trying to like salvage something after him. And you're like, all right.
There's no meat left on the bone.
No.
After that,
it's
right.
Tough.
There is, That crowd is done. They got a surprise, and they were fucking ecstatic about it.
They're already texting their friends.
That was the headliner to them. They don't understand that a showcase is. Is fucking 8 comics, 10 comics. Like, they don't care about
respect that they don't understand that. I think I'm old school, but I think the host has to be one of the strongest comics on the bill, especially on shows like that. But in general, like it was back in the day, the host was your strongest guy. That would be the person that brought up everybody and kept the room and laid out the rules, kept the room going,
hosting
brought the room back.
Is a marathon.
It is a fucking marathon.
It's a marathon, and you're when you're like you've got to. They've been seeing you all goddamn night. You can't even do any more material at that point, even if they ask you to. They're like, oh, we're gonna, could you eat checks for a minute? You're like, oh goddamn, they don't want any more of me, and they have so much more ahead of them. Like you feel bad. That's why hosting is a tough gig, man.
It is a tough gig.
It's a tough gig,
and you have to be strong, and you have to know how to pivot, and you have to know how to hit hard. And
it's not only about being funny. It's about being funny, but it's not only about being funny.
It's setting the tone. It's setting the tone, resetting the tone, resetting the tone, resetting the tone.
You also have to be the most likable on the bill.
You have to be very likable.
Right? Like, you have to be...
I've never seen Ken host.
I paid my dues. I did a lot of hosting. I was serviceable.
When I used to produce...
You always do great, man.
Ken
is great.
When I produced shows, I used to always think like I felt obligated. If I was producing it, I felt obligated to host.
Yeah.
And Dennis Rooney once was like, because I was like just eating shit, and I was like, God damn it. And he was like, why do you feel like you need to host? And I was like, because it's my, like, I put the show on. He's like, don't. He's like, it's not something you're particularly good at. And he was fucking right. Well, and especially in that moment, I was like, because I was like, oh, goddamn, this crowd. He's like, it's not necessarily the crowd. It's like, there was a rough start to the show. The crowd was very rough. It was like super blue collar town, like upper New York, and like, but his point was like, just don't. Yeah. Like, no one cares that you're the producer of the show. Like, you don't have to be the master of ceremonies today. He's like, just go. If you're more comfortable doing a spot, just go on and do a spot and have someone else, someone else to host it.
There's a time for spots, and there's a time for, if you're a particularly good host, you're almost selfless because you have to lay the rules out in a humorous way to keep their attention. You have to, I mean, I would do my due diligence, and if my researcher know who the comics were, the headliners were, and say, this guy is a crowd work comic. I'm going to, as much as I want to dip into the crowd and do some crowd work on these people right now, I got to leave meat on the bones because that's what they're going to get into.
Right, because it is a whole, for a crowd for people to get called on, it is a whole experience that probably, it makes it, they get a little nervous.
Sure.
Right? They get a little nervous. They got to come up with an answer. The crowd gets into it. The crowd either hates that person or likes that person. It's a little bit of an emotional ride. So, like, crowd work can tire out a crowd a little bit.
It could tire out a crowd. Also, you have to be careful because if you off the bat set the tone of animosity, you're fucking the show up for everybody. So you have to learn how to diffuse as well.
I've literally done that so many times because, like, in the way that if I did it during a spot, it would be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, in the way that, like, I see someone is like just doing just curmudgeon-y the whole time. Yeah. Sometimes I want to call that person out, right? Yeah. But when you're hosting, calling that person out is at your detriment because now you've set like you said, you've set the tone of.
But you gotta you can call them out in a creative way, like, oh, what did they glued your arms together too, guys? You know, stupid shit that helps.
It always has to be funny.
Are you all coming from the same funeral?
Yeah. It all has to be funny, but even when it is funny, and the rest of the crowd liked what you said, I do feel like it is odd. It's not always great as a host to do it. You know what I mean?
It's a tough spot. It's the toughest spot. And if you're good at it sucks because if you're good at it, you're almost pigeonholed.
Right. Yeah. You're going to work a long time, but everyone's going to
all the other comics recognize how hard it is, and they're like, that guy's a great host.
Well, that's the thing is industry recognizes how hard it is. Comics recognize how hard it is. They want you as a part of it. But the crowd, for some reason, has the perception that it goes in chronological order and that the host is the worst. The next guy gets better. And then
right. It's not always like that.
Not always. No.
Right.
And there's a lot of headliners, like, legacy headliners that aren't really comedians, but they're like legacy celebrities that would turn to comedy as a revenue source at this point in their careers that aren't comedians that have 20 minutes, but rely on a bunch of comics to come in that are way better comics to make the show better. But
and then to come down material wise for that audience, especially at a comedy club, especially. So it's the opposite of what we were saying in the like more celebrity version. But now when they're in that setting, it's the opposite. Now their detriment is the come down of we've just watched some really smart comedy,
and now you are you. But
you're
basically you're there to sell the that guy's there to sell the ticket to be the novelty of the show. Which I'm not going to name names. Some Saturday Night Live people that have since stopped being on the show that now tour as comedians.
Sure. They're like comedic actors that are, they've got funny chops, but they're not stand-ups.
But it feels like everybody seems to want to turn to comedy. I'll be a comedian as their last resort. It's almost like as big as it is, it's still disrespected as a craft.
It is. I remember hearing a dude on the radio here, and I won't name names, but he's running for governor. And which, by the way, it only narrows it down to a couple.
You're still thinking.
Yeah. But he was on the radio for years, and I remember him coming in to the club one night, and he was like, well, I've decided it's time to branch out and start doing some live stuff. So comedy seems like the next step because I'm so comfortable on the mic. And I remember thinking like, wow, that's just an arrogant position to take. And then they and I was featuring, and he just dropped in to do a spot. And then they put him on after me. Yeah. And I remember thinking, like, this guy's going to go try comedy for the first time because he thinks it's the next natural progression. Yeah. And I had a really good set. And then he went up there and just talked about kind of being famous from the radio and told a bunch of stories that didn't go anywhere. And you can hear the difference in the crowd reaction between my set in this dude's set. But he walked off and he was like, I think that went pretty well.
Well, that's just the arrogance. It's
Right?
unbelievable,
And I was
man.
like,
Yeah.
what?
It's
You
delusionally-
didn't hear the difference in...
Right? Did you hear them when I was there, and did you
Yeah.
hear them when you were there?
Well, that was like when Tom Brady said he was going to go out. Stormy Daniels was out touring, and you're like, "This."
I was
they're making a
supposed to open
mockery.
for
I know.
Stormy.
I thought
Yeah.
you were going. to
yeah.
There was a death in the family, though, like the day of the show.
Oh,
I remember
I would
telling
have.
that,
You know
yeah.
what?
I would have loved to have done that.
That would have been tremendous. I
Yeah.
mean, just for the fucking
There was the
shit
story.
show of it.
Yeah.
We got a lot of there's a lot of people, TikTok stars these days. Like that's the other wave of it is like,
Yeah.
and maybe they're doing skits, or maybe they're doing, they're doing,
They're figuring it
fucking-
out on the fly.
Yeah, and they're doing a thing where when they talk to the audience about the thing that maybe they fucking eat sandwiches, whatever the fuck their thing is, right? And like they have an audience for it,
Yeah.
and people love them, and they have a fucking 500,000 followers, and then they can sell at night
Yeah.
at a comedy club, right?
Yeah, but they could do it once. Like a
They can
lot
do it
of
once,
them,
yeah.
they're not coming back
No, they do
because
it once
people
and
are
people
like,
see the
I'm
novelty.
not paying to see that again.
And then that person goes on and just tells vaguely funny stories. It's just, it's like a misunderstanding of not understanding the sort of like science of stand up. Like there's a reason why jokes are structured the way they are, and the reason why that setup, and punchline and maybe tag on that works in that cadence, or the rules of three and all these things that like we don't even necessarily think of, but we do it.
And misdirection, all that.
All misdirect, all those different sort of like devices that we would
techniques
use, right?
of writing. Yeah.
There's and that plays into how we write a joke. We're like, oh, maybe I should add one more example to get like 3 examples. Like that plays into what we do just because we know it's going to work in the mechanics. And then this person comes on, doesn't understand, set a punchline, and you watch them just tell these stories, and you're like, the other misunderstanding I think that these guys, that a lot of people have about stand-up is like they think you're telling stories that were funny, that like funny stories, as opposed to what usually happens is I'm telling you a story about actually something a little fucked up that happened. I'm making it funny. If this story is not funny without my twist on it. But I think some people who go to try it, they think, this was funny in the moment. This guy slipped and fell. It was funny. I'm going to tell that story. And it's like, there's no punchline. You didn't make it funny. You told the story that was in action funny.
Also, and I think every comic, that the rule number one, if you're giving advice to young comics, is tighten your wordiness, man. Like a lot of these guys go out and the setup is the setup is the setup. It's like, dude, everybody knows what the mall is. Everybody sat in the chair. Get to the fucking point.
We've all gone through. When you start out, I definitely overwrote.
Yeah.
Tremendously. I remember somebody sitting down with me. It was very nice. He was like offered to do it. He's like, let me see your material. And he was like, print it out for me. And it was like, I had like, one of my jokes was like a page and a half. Yeah. He's like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm giving you 7 minutes. He's like, this is like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And he went and crossed it out, and he left me with 2 sentences. He's like, that's your setup. That's your punchline. And it just opened up my whole world. Yeah. I still hear that dude's voice. He's kind of hated in comedy, but I still hear that.
Bill Cosby. Yeah. Did you wake up a week
woke
later
up and heard the voice?
Yeah. He cut out the sentences in like 3 days of my life, and he left me with these like 2 sentences, but it opened up like I was offended as I was watching him cross it out, but then when I actually read it out loud, I was like, blah blah blah, da, da, da. And I was like, oh,
yeah. At first,
that's a joke.
At first, you're like, oh shit! Now I got to write so many more of these small little. But that's the joke.
How am I gonna fill 7 minutes with 2 sentences at a time?
Or I tell people, listen, if you want to keep a setup like that, you want to keep a long setup, that punchline has to be very rewarding. It's got to be an explosion. Yeah. If it's not an explosion, you tighten that shit up, man.
Yeah. If it's fizzling.
Yeah.
Or if you find yourself still talking through it where the laugh should be. It's not tight enough.
No.
But
then there's other ones like I opened for Eric D'Alessandro, who
I'm
was
gonna be working with
comedian.
him this weekend.
He was I did one of the
other.
first shows that he ever did. It was at I Play America. It was the second. I think he did something in Staten Island, and he did these. And I Play reached out and said they were looking for an opener for him. And he's this kid that's on like TikTok and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, well, let me see. And I went out and I crushed up front. And I was like, well, let's see. He was a fucking beast. He was
good,
great.
Right? Like,
I thought he was phenomenal. Yeah. Great charisma, great energy. Jokes were great. And I was like, well, this is the anomaly. This
I'm going to
guy,
open for him this weekend, actually, in Poughkeepsie.
What was he doing
shameless
stand-up
plug. I went over to
before?
air this. I don't know if that's going to
work. No, it won't be.
Oh, okay.
That will have, because this is going to be, we record way ahead of time.
Like he's opening for him every weekend.
Yeah. No, it's I got hired by the club. I don't even know him yet, but I will be doing that this weekend. But I think there are a few guys who really made I think of like it's another Italian guy, like Anthony Rodia.
Yeah, he's
right?
another
like
one that
he's a guy who had turned his online success into an act, but he has an act.
Yeah.
Right, like
but some of these guys were doing stand up before.
Victor Potato, was that what you're gonna say?
No,
well, he's like a stand up.
He's been doing it for 30 years, driving buses, feeding his family.
And then and then he screamed about shit.
Do you know Ryan Davis? I opened for Ryan Davis once, and he was billed at the club as YouTube sensation.
Okay.
And usually when you see YouTube sensation, I'm gonna have a better set than this dude.
Yeah, so that's not a comedy credit.
And I had, like you said, I had a great set. And then I was like, all right, let's see what he's got. And then he fucking blew me. Yeah, he blew the roof off the place. And then I asked him afterwards, I was like, because a lot of these guys will sell out the clubs, the YouTube guys, and then start working on an act. And I was like, how long have you been doing stand-up? He was like, I don't know, like 20 years. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. You took off on and then when you hear that story, you're like, oh, good for you, man. Yeah.
Right, because they have it. And it does come down to a natural, like, of course we work on it.
Yeah.
But like it does come down to like, do you have it or not?
Well, that's like the Victor Potato story. Like that guy was doing it for 30 years, driving a school bus, and then the bread and milk thing hit, and then now he's getting finally what he deserved. You know, he's been doing it for a long time. Whether you know it's good to see something like that.
When that skit hit a few years back, he was already such a.
He was already a headliner.
Yeah. And just on in just a comedy club working comic way, but then that kind of blew him up a bit.
Yeah, it's good to see. Like
that's cool to see.
I'm on the road. I'm doing some shows with the buddy of mine. That's Adam Ray. He's starting to finally get his due with the Dr. Phil thing and everything.
Yeah.
But
he's fucking tremendously funny though.
Oh my god,
like
dude.
his straight set. That is especially in character. I'm blown away by his sharpness in character. It's hard enough to do that as yourself.
Yeah, I've toured with him for the last couple years. He came out with us on the road, and then I've been working with him on his shows too, doing some stuff here and there. And even in the car, in the hotels, just hanging out, you're like, God damn, he's a sweetheart, a great dude, a nice dude, and he is fucking talented, funny, character funny, one of the quickest people I've ever heard.
Multifaceted, talented guy.
Hearing him do radio interviews in the car, you're like, God damn. So to finally see people get their come up, you're like, thank God, man, because some of these people that get it don't seem like they deserve it, or they get it prematurely, or they don't know how to handle it when they get it. He's sitting on a catalog of material that I'm glad to see him, and I hope he continues on his success.
It works itself out for good or bad. Like if the person's truly got it, they'll keep going with it. If they don't, they'll fizzle out. You know what I mean? The world will figure them out at some point. For good or bad. Yeah. Well, we were like, this might be the most positive, not shitting on comedians comedy conversation that we've ever not that we've ever had, because we don't really shit on like comedians on the show, but like that comics have. I always remember like starting out and hearing people that they're good friends of mine now, but like just grumpy people. Yeah. And everyone's success is like somehow an insult to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's three people actually saying positive things about it.
Yeah, man. Why not?
There's a lot of,
listen, there's a lot of those guys out there too. You kind of, but I mean, that's how you keep moving forward and find
no one's success is the reason why you're not, right? Like it's so silly to be grumpy about a comic success. Well, there's space for you. You can still do it.
I tell the story time. Like I've been doing it a long time. I'm a nobody, but I've had people like we were just saying, like Andrew Schultz has opened for me before. Pete Davidson's opened for me before.
I've opened for him.
You've opened for me. There's all these. There's been a ton of big names that have opened for me, and people are like, "Oh man, they're really." How do you feel about that? I'm like, I've seen them work hard. I've seen them go out, work hard, find the right things, go out and try out things. I didn't work as hard. So I would never, I'm glad for the success. That's great. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm glad that, I had like a situation with Pete Davidson once where he like came in, did a guest spot, ran the light, did like, 30. I had to cut my headline set short. We had 2 shows. I was steaming. I'm like, great. He's staying for the second show. He's going to do it again. And this is when he was a nobody. He was like
he's very young, very young. Yeah.
And then in the green room, he's like, "Hey man, you think you can buy me some alcohol out there? They won't serve me." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, you just cut my set short." And then he went up and he did it again the second show. And then I'm like, "Hey, well, you know what? He got laughs, and maybe one, I'm sure there's some person in history that's like, dude, this guy fucking stepped on my show and this and that. His name was Chevy Chase or Bill Murray.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, well, at least he went on to Saturday Night Live and made something of himself.
Yeah.
So now I got somebody,
You're like,
if somebody's going to do
That
this to me, at
story
least
is
it's
so much
somebody.
worse if I was the one that did it.
Yeah, Ken Krantz ran a like, this fucking guy.
Yeah, that prick did that to me, and he might be dead now, but that prick ran the light.
Podcast in a mall that used to be a fucking Bell Laboratory with cancer floating about.
Yeah, me and Ken do make people on TikTok angry.
Yeah,
so,
do you?
know, yeah. So you know what I find every time we talk about religion or politics, and we're not even talking politics,
Right.
like the mention. I one time said, if you're the guy, I went to Cameron. I was like, I was talking about Thanksgiving. I said, if you're the person who's talking politics at your Thanksgiving dinner, because I was talking about like I love to cook and what I do for Thanksgiving. Like all this effort. So I was just joking around about like all the effort I put into brining that turkey and all this shit. You're going to talk politics, right? That was like, I just had a 2-minute thing. The anger, the people, there was one person like, you piece of shit, we're fighting for our lives. Fuck your turkey. You know, like people are just mad. Or like even the mere mention of religion. Like we did that. We were talking about like around Christmas time, you and I were having a conversation of the difference between like Catholicism and Christianity. And you just mentioning it. People fucking lose their mind.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I don't really. First of all, again, full circle with our industry now is it's online. It's like you have to post. You got to be on social media. I hate social media. I would never be on if it wasn't for it. I don't post material. Very seldom do I post any material. Brett Ernst from Cobra Kai, all that. I worked with him, and he was one of those guys that I was like, yeah, I don't like posting shit. I've had a lot of material stolen throughout the years. I post a lot of stuff that, also I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. And he's like, dude, you got to get over that shit right away if you want to make something, because that's where we're at right now. Post. If it gets stolen, it gets stolen. Hopefully there's a timestamp. If you can't prove it and somebody bigger than you gets it, then it's theirs. But if you have no online presence, you have no presence. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. So I go through like flurries of posting, and then it's exhausting.
I do the same
So I don't online hate
do
at
the
all
same
for
thing.
any reason. Have you dealt with like online hate at all?
I mean, every now and then I'll read something like a review or something, but nothing terrible. Just more somebody shitting on something. I had once where, again, opening for the Jokers, where years and years ago, where it was a TikTok post where I had to learn what material could fly with them and what couldn't. And I did this amphitheater in like Kansas City, and some girl wrote immediately, first comedian sucked. He did a fat girl joke and 2 racists. And I'm like, all right. And then the guy below recommented, and it was fucking funny. Go figure. And I was like, thank you, dude.
But
nothing crazy. I try not to, get too. I don't go. I talk about me. I talk about family. I talk about shit like that. I'm self-deprecating a little bit, I guess, if I get into anything that's or I try to cue it up. And I'm not clean by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't do rarely any political or religious stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think I know enough about it, so I don't delve into it. And also, I mean, some people love it. Some people are there for that. Some people know what comic they're there for.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy, so.
And I'm certainly not either. Here's a great one. I was posting a promotion for a show. This is just people get very triggered by things online. It's always an old Facebook guy, dude, like a fucking 90-year-old Facebook guy, Maybe not 90, but like in their like 70s or 80s. So I was promoting a show, and I said it's going to be a goddamn killer show. I said something with the word goddamn in it. I'm assuming this guy is religious, because he was mad that I used the word.
Or he's into beavers. He doesn't like you talking bad about dams.
Goddamn. Yeah. Don't put God in my dams.
God.
Yeah. Only a douche. He calls me a douche canoe. Multiple times.
Beavers, canoes. Maybe we're seeing I don't know.
Yeah.
Canoe
Maybe
can't be downstream.
Aquatic humor is the problem here. Only a douche canoe would completely type out G damn. I hope you lose money on your promotion.
I want to find this ad. I know I'm part of the show, but
yeah, you are. You're right. So we're producing a show in quarantine. So he goes, well, this is an ad, so I think it
kind of hope we don't sell tickets.
So he goes. So I just said to him, "Goddamn, you're angry." Just trolling back.
Yeah.
Right? Just say "goddamn" again.
Yeah.
Douche canoe again. Like, what is his go-to insert?
Douche canoe.
Douche canoe. You'll never be successful. You're not funny. So I said, "God damn, you're right." I'm just gonna keep on. If it keeps coming back, I'm gonna keep on. I'm in the middle of this now.
You gotta hit him with some other references though. Beat him with like a Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I never
that's
thought
what
about
I
it.
said. Jesus, but fucking Christ.
Yeah. But is he? He didn't say like use the Lord's name in vain. But I'm assuming that's what he meant, because he wrote only a douche canoe would say G damn fully written out. So it has to be religion, right? Like that's got to be why he's angry.
But how did he know you're not funny? Like, do you think? Like, did he gather that just from the ad, or has he seen you?
Yeah. How does he know you're not funny?
I was waiting for you to catch
How
that.
is this guy so accurate in his description of you? You are a douche on a canoe, and you are unfunny. Yeah, he might have checked out my comedy and is not a fan of it, or I find that this is typically. He probably didn't even go that far. He might hate my comedy if he did, but he probably didn't even go that far. He probably just is like, you just said the Lord's name in vain.
No, there's people that are.
But also, if you're religious and you're just calling people douche canoes, like, is that really? Is that?
Yeah. What if you're like, listen, I'm really into canoes and douches. My wife douches regularly. Why would you say something like
while
that?
we're boating sometimes?
Yeah, while we're boating.
She does it with seawater. It's cleansing. The salt kills the bacteria.
Yeah, I mean, people get triggered by certain words. I've had it happen. People get triggered. They hold on to certain things. I mean, but you got to work through it.
It's crazy now. Like you were talking about not being political. Like I was in Poughkeepsie also last weekend, but I was with Joe DeVito, who's like a big Gutfeld dude and Fox News crowd. So he gets a big Fox News crowd. And I will talk about Trump sometimes, but it's as a lead into a joke. Yeah. I don't do anything
really
political. It's not really. It's like I'm not like attacking his policies, but the joke was basically like I was saying how Trump says he wants to make America great again. I think he maybe bit off more than he could chew. Like some people think, I feel like we can't decide on when it was great. We can't agree. Mm-hmm. So some people think it's great right now, but others don't. I said, I think he should go piece by piece. Like, why don't we start with making stewardesses hot again?
Yeah.
Right. So and then I go and it's an old bit that I just recently brought back because I realized I could with the current climate.
Yeah.
So, but before I even got to that, some MAGA dude's booing me. And I'm like, wait, why are you booing me? And he was like, because I think America's great right now. I think he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so it sounds like you're one of the people that think it's great right now. I was like, okay, good. Like, if that's how you feel, great.
Right.
And then he was like, well, I don't think you should be talking about this.
It's a mere mention of his guy.
Yeah. And then like I do a joke about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jewish space lasers. Yeah. Jew. And so I do that joke. And the guy's like, well, why don't you do one about AOC now?
Because that's not the joke ever.
And I'm like, because she's not the one who said the Jewish space lasers thing. That's who the joke's about.
Comedy isn't like you're not a news outlet. You don't have to interview both. You don't have to put the offer out legally to both sides.
I'm not
You're allowed
Dan
to write jokes
Rather.
about whatever the fuck you want.
Well, I do see that crowds do that. They're like, all right, let's see where you're going to teeter. Like sometimes crowds do want to see. The climate is pretty abrasive right now politically to see where. I mean, I don't really go anywhere. The most political joke I do recently is I do a joke about just, it's crazy getting old, the changes I'm not used to, I'm not ready. Disney World is allowing employees to have visibly showing tattoos. The Yankees changed their beard policy. They allow facial hair. I just found out that my grandma who died 15 years ago is no longer going to get Social Security checks. It's getting wild out there. It's getting wild. And you see him like laugh and pull back. And I'm like, yeah, I like that you laugh at that and you pull back because you are trying to figure out where I land politically.
Right.
And I'll tell you where I land. Fuck them all. Let's have some fun. And
Right.
If you can get on the like
the middle ground.
This isn't even about a point of view. Like I did a thing with like comparing the VP debates when the debates were to WNBA games, but when I first said the names, they were like fucking. Angry. I remember did it in like a pretty blue collar town. The second I said Trump and Vance, it was like, what's going on? And then I started making fun of the WNBA and they were on board.
A lot of clients
they were like, we don't like women's basketball either.
Trigger words. They're ready for any kind of trigger words. And I've been doing a bunch of colleges and college kids too, and I've had to tailor stuff around being a little more sensitive. But I also found out a couple of years ago, I felt like the sensitivity was higher, and I feel like they're becoming more open to just saying, fuck it, have more fun.
I think it is definitely coming back around.
The boomerang effect, it's called, where it's gone too far to where it's coming back around.
Yeah.
It'll go back the other way.
It goes in waves
years.
of whether or not the right or left is more sensitive at the moment.
Yeah.
I do think it comes in waves. Like there was definitely when we were younger, it was like conservatives were offended at everything, and then it was the more
Sure.
woke thing, and like I felt like every liberal was offended and everything, and now it feels like a little bit on the right. Like it kind of comes in waves, and I think in their position of like which administration is there, how comfortable do I feel with the politics, and like how triggered am I
Also,
by current comments.
As a comic, I feel like it's your kind of a responsibility. That's how you come off as either trying to be malicious or breaking balls, or neutral.
Yeah, are you just trying to be funny about it?
Just trying to be
That's what
funny,
most
or are you
people are
being an
trying to
asshole?
do.
You know, so it depends.
I guess there are some pretty politically charged comics these days, though.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There are. So it's like maybe they're expecting that too because they're seeing the TikToks of
Well,
like
yeah,
these
and then
comics
those are the
doing-
ones that it's the confirmation bias where you just kind of rah to your crowd. But if you want to step outside or you're not, your crowd is not coming to your show. It's the comedy club is the sell.
Yeah.
And maybe you got to walk a middle ground, or you're going to walk a bunch of people. You know.
Well, dude, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, wish you all the success and continued success and everything. Thanks for coming on. Do you have anything to plug? This is probably gonna be like late May, or just plug your socials, whatever.
Yeah, if you want, just everything is at Chris J Comedy. I think TikTok is like Real Chris J Comedy or something. I don't ever go on TikTok. Pretty much Instagram and Facebook and stuff. So Chris J Comedy, give me a follow. Come out to a show. Support these guys. They're crushing it. And thanks for having me.
All right, you douche canoes.
Fucking douche canoes.
This is a bit too much podcast and all the socials. Check us out, like, subscribe, all the shit.